hard work. Jimbo and Willie are playing at their house when Jimbo stops and says, "Hey Willie, are you as hungry as me?" Willie thought for a moment and then replied that he was. He's very hungry, but there's nothing left in the house and they have no money. Jimbo thought about where to get food and immediately thought of Mr. Jones. "Jones must have plenty of food," he said cheerfully. It just didn't go so well the last time they were at his place. They'll have to be nicer now, which will come easily without Loyd. So the boys went to Mr. Jones's farm. "What do you want here? Wasn't enough for you last time?" Jones began to warn the boys sternly. "We're hungry, we just want some food, Mr. Jones." Jones started to look at them strangely. He knew the boys had nothing to pay with, but they could do some chores for him that he himself didn't want to do. "If you'll come to the end of town and get me some chicken feed, I might be able to find something for you," Mr. Jones stated. So the boys agreed and ran out of the farmhouse and had already begun to plan their journey when Loyd suddenly appeared. "What are you fellows doing today? Getting ready for your next adventure?" he asked. Jimbo wasn't too happy to see Loyd. He quickly replied that they had an important assignment from Mr. Jones and that they really had to hurry. "If you think you're going to hurry this way, it's a mistake, my friends. Everyone knows the fastest way to the store is through town," Loyd started to argue. Jimbo saw this as a clear opportunity to get Loyd. "Well, if you think your way's faster, we can bet." Loyd thought about it for a moment. He would like to get some food from Farmer Jones, so he uttered, "The prize will be food from Farmer Jones." Willie and Jimbo agreed. The game was on. While Loyd ran away through town, Willie and Jimbo hurried through the woods. "We gotta win! Willie, you hear?" Jimbo said. At that moment, they saw the little girl they saw last time in the woods. "Will you pick me some flowers?" she asked and ran away. Jimbo didn't want to stop, but when Willie saw her sadness, he tried to convince Jimbo to help the little girl. "I'll just keep this short, Jimbo, please," Willie pleaded. This was definitely not going to win them the game. Jimbo was against it at first, but after the moment he nodded yes. Meanwhile, Loyd was walking through town when he met Timmy. Timmy was still the little lawman in the local town, and Loyd didn't want to get involved with him again. He'd been in trouble a few times before, so he decided to quickly hide behind the house. He waited until Timmy left. But it took too long, so he took off. That's when Timmy saw him and called out to him. "Hey, stop! I'm going to get you!" But Loyd ran fast, running past the houses, looking for a place to hide. Willie and Jimbo were no better off looking for flowers. Jimbo was getting tired of this. "There they are," Willie shouted. He ran towards them but didn't look under his feet. Tripped and fell right on his face. Jimbo started laughing at him. "You're such a dork. Come on, let's pick them up quick and move on. Loyd can't beat us." The boys walked back to the little girl with the flowers. But they'd forgotten which way. This whole forest is weird. They gave her flowers and she smiled and left. Willie felt very happy. They were back on their way to victory. Loyd hid from Timmy behind a house. "He can't keep me here now. I can't. I have to win," he told himself. But then Timmy appeared behind him. "This is the police. What are you doing here, Loyd?" Timmy asked sternly. "I don't have time for this right now, Timmy. Go find someone else to do this rubbish," Loyd replied. Timmy was shocked. He couldn't believe the disrespect Loyd was now showing him. Timmy threw him to the ground and Loyd remained lying motionless. Willie and Jimbo were already approaching their destination. "I don't see Loyd here. Of course that's to be expected. Let's go get the feed," Jimbo said. As they walked back to the farm, they met Timmy. "What are you doing here?" Timmy asked the boys. Jimbo replied that they'd gone to buy feed for Mr. Jones's animals. Timmy had always been very suspicious, but he didn't want to get involved with Jimbo. He was a dangerous criminal. "I think I arrested your friend today," Timmy said, and walked away. So Jimbo decided to go back through town, but Loyd was nowhere to be found. They searched and searched until suddenly Willie saw Loyd pinned to the ground. "We've got to help him, Jimbo." So they walked around him, wondering what they were going to do with him. Loyd was very angry. "Timmy did this to me. He's got those stupid police habits again." The boys spent a long time figuring out how to free Loyd. It wasn't easy. When the boys finally managed to free him, they could go back to Jones's farm. But Timmy disagreed and again watched the boys from a distance. He knew Jimbo would come back for Loyd, and he had proof that he was trying to help a criminal. Now all he had to do was track his trio. "We won, Loyd," Jimbo said. He was enjoying his win very much. "I know, you were better for once," replied Loyd. By the time they got back to Mr. Jones's farm, it was getting slightly dark. They were looking forward to dinner. "Mr. Jones, we got you what you wanted," Jimbo reported. "Thank you, gentlemen, but there is one more thing. To get food, you have to go get it. That means I'll need some mushrooms from the swamp forest," Mr. Jones replied. Jimbo wasn't too happy. "We didn't agree on this. You said just the food would be enough." Jimbo started to argue, but it was useless. "That's the way it's going to be if you want to eat at my farm today." Jimbo, Willie and Loyd had to go into the woods to look for mushrooms. They stopped in front of the woods. "I challenge you to another contest, Jimbo. I can find mushrooms before you can." Loyd began to tease Jimbo. "I already beat you today, if you remember correctly," Jimbo replied to the challenge. "You don't have to be afraid of me, Jimbo," Loyd began to taunt Jimbo. "Fine, if you think I'm scared, fine, I'll sweep you off the set again." Jimbo began to speak angrily. Willie was a little nervous. He knew Jimbo was taking an unnecessary risk, so they all headed into the woods. "I think we should go this way, Jimbo," whispered Willie and pointed into the woods. "Not that way exactly," Jimbo replied. Willie got tired of Jimbo always making the same decision, so he declared that he would go that way and win. Jimbo didn't like to argue with his close friend, but now he had to beat Loyd. "I see, we're already racing in a three-way. It's finally going to get interesting," Loyd declared. They searched for so long until they finally got lost, as if they had completely forgotten where they were. All the time, everyone was thinking about winning. Jimbo said, "We should start a competition to see who can find a way out of here." Finding the mushrooms was a lot harder than it looked. Now the boys faced a real challenge, and that was to find their way back. Suddenly, someone walked by, and they all got scared and wanted to run away as fast as they could. They ran through the woods so fast that Loyd fell, and no one noticed. After a while, Willie and Jimbo stopped and called out, "Loyd, where are you?" Suddenly, Loyd came running up from behind and startled the boys with a big shout of, "I've got you, buddies!" Both Jimbo and Willie were terrified. "And you know what I've got, friends?" Loyd asked happily. Jimbo didn't wish it to be so, when suddenly Loyd pulled out a mushroom. At that moment, however, Jimbo knocked the mushroom out of his hand. Loyd couldn't believe his eyes. They all ran after the mushroom like it was gold. All except Willie. He just stood and watched his friends chase the prize. When Willie walked up to his friends, all he heard was arguing. "You lost my mushroom," said Loyd. "You won dishonestly," replied Jimbo. Willie saw a little girl in the distance, handing him the mushroom. "Thank you," said Willie. When he came back with the mushroom, Jimbo and Loyd couldn't believe it. "I won, now let's go back to the farm," Willie said triumphantly. When they got back to the farm, Mr. Jones was in the back working on something, and his food supplies were lying unguarded on the ground. "Okay, Loyd, I'm warning you, do not attack anything," Jimbo warned Loyd. "Relax, Jimbo, I won't do anything," Loyd replied, and he went into Mr. Jones's backyard. Jimbo didn't feel good about that at all. Loyd started walking around the food and pointing at him. Jimbo and Willie both knew he was up to something. They couldn't put their finger on it after their last experience. They couldn't afford it at all. "Jimbo, I won," said Willie. Mr. Jones appeared by the boys and was glad to see them. "So what have you got for me? The mushrooms?" asked Mr. Jones. Willie handed it to him. Jones looked at it. "Well, do you think this will do? One mushroom?" he asked gruffly. Jones strode away. "Okay, this is too much," Jimbo thought to himself. "We've got to think of something now." Loyd was ready to launch his grand plan and steal Jones's food supply. Willie wanted to stop him, but Jimbo had had enough, so he spoke softly to Loyd. "We have to be careful, you understand? This can't turn out like last time." So Loyd took it and slowly walked away with it. In the meantime, everyone was watching Mr. Jones. Loyd walked out of the yard with slow and small steps. Mr. Jones had no idea. When Loyd got past the fence, they began to slowly run back to their bunker. "I told you, buddy, this is how easy it is to win," Loyd began to declare happily. Of course, Jimbo was in disbelief. It couldn't have gone that well, or could it? "Loyd, go see if Jones is anywhere. I'll hide all the food behind the tree." Jimbo began to organize everything. Jones was nowhere to be found, but all the while they were being tracked by a very respected little sheriff named Timmy. "This sure ain't your food, is it, boys?" Timmy asked suspiciously. Loyd didn't want to go back now. He was supposed to be looking for Mr. Jones, and so he did. "I'll take this now. What do you say?" Timmy asked. Jimbo jumped right in. "Oh, come on, Timmy. Last time you didn't get us. We did a lot of things for this meal today, and I'm not willing to throw it all away." Timmy knew that Jimbo was smart, but he really had no proof that they stole the food. However, by watching them the whole time, he saw that they were stealing from the farm. Timmy could see right through it. "I've been watching you, and I know the food you have here is old Jones." Jimbo started to wonder. You mean to tell me that you went to a place you're not allowed to be? He started to play a nice show on Timmy. Timmy started to get scared. He knew what kind of man Mr. Jones was and that it was not good to mess with him. We're not done yet, Jimbo, and he left. Willie, Jimbo and Loyd began to eat the food that they hadn't earned the honest way but had worked for.